Before you, members of the press, the leadership of the FDC already introduced to you the national chairman, Ambassador Birigwa, and also the Deputy President, Western Region, the Honorable Nzou, and myself, Deputy President. You are informed our party president was arrested and detained in Dokoro. I was not able to make it to this meeting today. But our position is very clear on elections in this country. They are fraudulent. They are a mockery of democracy. What we have just witnessed in Soroti is despicable. On the eve of the elections, over 100 leaders and agents who had been deployed to man the electoral process were arrested, detained in various detention centers. Some were detained as far as Dokoro, including the party president, and the others were taken to Bukedia. Quite a number of honorable members of parliament, including the Honorable Nzou here, he was also arrested, and a couple of others. No offense had been committed by these leaders, and indeed there are no charges that were preferred against them. On the voting day, it was mayhem. It was thuggery, nothing else. And what happened? They raided various polling stations. In some polling stations, there was open bribery at polling stations. And also, members agents were picked. They could not witness what had happened. And you can imagine they were returned to the polling centers after the conclusion of the exercise, only to sign declaration of results forms. And as you have heard from the statement that has been read before you, at some polling station, the residue materials were pre-ticked, were ticked in favor of Wariko and stuffed in the ballot boxes. And lots of dirty things happened. Of course, in total violation of the electoral laws. The criminality that was committed was done before cameras. Some of you witnessed what happened. Even the pre-ticked ballot papers, standards set in the Constitution. And as we said earlier on, it's nothing else but a mockery of democracy. Going forward, we insist that the provisions of Article 3 give us a clear position, way forward on what we should be doing. Article 3 provides that whoever derogates from the provisions of the Constitution, whether they are in state power or not, they commit treason. So we state in no uncertain terms that what happened in Soroti is treasonable. All those agents of the regime, starting with Museveni himself, because he was the mastermind behind this, coming to Nabanja, the Prime Minister, and many others, the Tango Dois, the Mukuras, and whoever, they committed treason. And once you commit treason, it's incumbent upon Ugandans to rise to the occasion. Because there is a command that we have always cited in the provisions of the Constitution. That command under Article 3, that the duty rests with Ugandans to stand up and deal with that kind of buffoonery. So it's up to now the people of Uganda, and as the FDC, we make a commitment to work hand in hand with our brothers and sisters in all the party formations that have committed themselves in this instrument to do whatever within our means under the provisions of Article 3 of the Constitution to defend the will of the people. It's important because the cornerstone of democracy, the cornerstone of constitutionalism is upholding the will of the people. So electoral exercises which do not reflect the will of the people are a farce, are a mockery of democracy. So this was a sham exercise, and the trail of that has been happening, as you are told. It happened in Omoro, happened in Kayunga, and we have not been in any way helped by the institutions that are supposed to dispense justice. I will specifically talk about, as I conclude, what happened in the case of Nakwede. It is horrible. And it was well orchestrated. The case which was filed, the papers were duly submitted before court, the pleadings, and the registrar took his time to sign on the notice of presentation of the petition. And the law requires that the notice of presentation of petition shall be served together with the petition. Now the registrar took his time. I think after filing the petition, he did not sign the notice of presentation of petition. He waited until after 4 days. And when you count the days, the 7 days provided for in the law, the service was done within time, because he indicated the day when he signed, when he appended his signature on the notice of presentation of the petition. But the judge dismissed it on technicalities, that service was done out of time. You can see how the judicial has also been drafted into this network, this racket of thuggery, and a couple of other cases we can cite. So we can't stand this. We can't watch with arms folded. We are saying, going forward in the ongoing election cycles, it's not going to be business as usual. And we want Ugandans to embrace this message. We are committed here to working together as a team, as a formidable team, because we stand on the right side of the Constitution. We are the Constitution of this Republic of Uganda is on our side. And we invite Ugandans to firmly stand with us, and all of us who are before you here, we want to speak with one voice. We want to sing in unison that enough is enough, and we must deal with this buffoonery, with this thuggery, with this madness, with this nonsense as a united front. So we are really committed as the FDC in all aspects to deal with this madness. The Constitution should reign supreme, and we invite all stakeholders, please join us in this struggle. The very final thing is, we invite the respective supporters of this formation, the members of the FDC, the members of NUP, the members of JEEMA, PPP, and all other stakeholders. Let's bury our differences and rescue this country from the precipice. We rescue this country from the cliff. We are sitting on a time bomb as a nation. Unless we come together and deal with this madness, the junta will always go away with their thuggery. And with those remarks, we'd like to reiterate our commitment to dealing with this nonsense as a united front. May God bless you. I thank you. in less than a minute bangambye okuvundula mu nti sijja kuddamu bingi naye ekiriwo mu ggwanga tewakyali kulonda kati mwami oyo Museveni akola byayagala era ensonyi zonna bazinaabye kati byabadde bakola mu nkukutu nga basitaafinga obululu ekiro bagezaako okuyisa wano ne wali ne babuzaabuza kati babikola misana gwaka mu ngeri ya kinanjo kyankimize ayagala kyoyagala okukola kikole kati tebakyabikkako n'akamu era bwoba wabaddeyo akakyalimu akakunkuna Museveni yalagidde ddala nti kati okulonda asalawo gwayagala ekyabadde Soroti bakutte ba agents ne ba leaders ne party president o FDC ne bamutwala ne bamusibira eddokolo paka ludaku lwajjo abakulembeze ne ba agents abasuka mu 10 polling stations ziri 63 abo bakutte babadde basobola zimaninga bulungi naye buli gwe babadde balaba nti ajja kulwanyisa obubbi nga bakwata kwasiga basiba tewalina misango gye babaguddeko balina polling stations ezimu ng'otatayi aminiti we batuuse nga materials okulonda kuwedde naye waliwo bino ballot paper bwebasigaddewo ne babukwata bonna ne babutiikingira aliko ne babuteekamu wali ne babala ba agents babakwata ne babatwala ne babasiba naye we babakomyawo olweggula abamu nga bagamba kati mujje musayininga DR forms ku kifuba ku mudumu gwa mundu ne babazaayo mukomera kakati eryo lyonna effujjo lye bakoze abo bannabandi abatango odoyi baani musemateeka liraga nti baba baziiza omusango ogwa Nagomera gwe bayita treason soma article 3 bw'omenya semateeka n'okola effujjo erifana oba omenye oba oziiza omusango ogwa Nagomera era semateeka mu nnyingo eyokusatu akiteeka ku bannayuganda bonna nti bwe mulabanga omuntu alwanyisiza semateeka ng'aleesewo effujjo nga lye baakola baze bakola mu kulonda kuno muyina omuwaŋŋanga ng'amateeka bwe galagira so n'olw'ensonga eyo ffe ng'aba-FDC tuli beeteefuteefu era tuli wano okukakasa eggwanga nti tukwataganye ne bannaffe ab'ebibiina ebirala byonna bugenda mu maaso okulwanagana ne mwami Museveni obutakyusa wiru y'abantu era ekyo tweyama nti semateeka kitukakatako era nga tusaba nti mwenna abali eyo abatuwagira bamemba b'ekibiina kyaffe ekya FDC bamemba b'ekibiina ekya NUP ekya JEEMA ekya PPP n'abalala mwenna abannayuganda ne tuli mu kibiina tuleke okulumaŋŋana twaŋŋange n'akyemalira nga tuli kitole nga tugenda mu kalulu kano obululu bwonna obuddako naye tumwaŋŋange nga tuli kitole so tuli wano okweyama ffe tuli rede okukola omulimu ogwo okulwanyisa n'akyemalira mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala.
Thank you very much. That was the FDC. I said I will follow the order from my right. I want to invite our elder, who is also leading the Red Card movement, as you all know, retired Dr. KIZZA Besigye, to give his brief comments. The request of the media is that when you finish the English version, you make you summarize in Uganda. That's the request from the media. May I now invite Dr. Besigye and members of
A very good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen of the press. I I think what we are doing here today, first of all, of course, as you realize, this is mainly an engagement of political parties, because political parties are the ones that go to elections. I am not leading a political party, and so I am not leading to the elections. And therefore my position is slightly different from theirs. But what we are dealing with here today is a very, very fundamental element of how this country will proceed. And I just want to make 3 points on that, in that regard. First is that we are making this statement when our country, Uganda, is in the middle of one of the worst social-economic crises that our country has faced. Every person almost, save for those whom we are united to work against, and they are a handful of people, every other citizen is in crisis of survival. In fact, we characterized the crisis in the country as a crisis of failure to thrive. Failure to thrive. An FTT crisis. That's the crisis in which our country is found today. Now, this crisis is a result, a direct result. It's an economic crisis, it's a social crisis, but the cause of the crisis is political. And the political cause to the crisis is what we are dealing with today. The fact that the people who live in this country, the greatest majority of the people who live in this country have no say in their country. That is where the socio-economic crisis comes from. That we are in a country where we have no say. We are taxed. We don't have a say as to what will happen to our money. Our wealth, which we had collected and was being managed collectively as our wealth, was all taken away by this handful of people. As we watched the national wealth in terms of public assets that Uganda had in 1986, public assets, all public assets were privatized to these individuals who are holding the country captive. And whatever else we produce, they use as they want. We have no say. That's where this crisis comes from. Having a country of people without a say on how their country is managed or how their wealth is managed. That's why people have been crying in this current budget that as people are starving, they have appropriated nearly 2 billion shillings to be spent in one family of Mr. and Mrs. Museveni. They can spend all the money they want as the rest starve. And Museveni will shamelessly come and say, there is nothing to do, just tighten your belts. For him, he's not entitled to have a belt. It doesn't need any belt. It's you to tighten your belts. So that is the cause of the crisis. Having no voice, living in a country without voice, having people without power. So the struggle that the country must undertake is to regain power, to regain influence in the country. That's the struggle, to shift power from those who captured it to those who don't have it. It's a power shift. Now, so the last point I want to make is, how does that power shift from those who captured it to those who are now victims of powerlessness? How does the power shift? Will it shift by those who captured us organizing elections and that we come and vote and they say, okay, now you have power, you can now take over the country? It won't happen. And that's what we are confirming today, that the elections in and of themselves will not shift power from those who captured it with the guns to the people of Uganda. It will not shift it. Or what now I hear our brother who has just defected from us, if he was with us, the now Minister Mov'T, that he has gone to lead a process for dialogue to have reforms in the country. That is why he has gone to organize dialogue so that there are reforms in the country. How will those reforms return the power? Even if you organize the dialogue and the reforms are actually done, let's suppose he has been successful. He has organized the dialogue, the reforms have been done. How will the reforms return the power? Because you heard from Momolodi that all the things that were done in all these by-elections, Kayunga, Omolo, Soroti, were all illegal. They were all unconstitutional. You know? It's not that there is a bad constitution or there are bad laws. No. It's that there is impunity. Those with the power override whatever law is there. They do what they want. So if you change the law, who will make sure that that law actually is respected? How will the laws be respected? How can the constitution be respected? So dialogue, while power remains controlled by those who captured it by force, will not shift that power to those who don't have it. You can change the laws, you can change the constitution even, you can change all, but who will respect them? And whenever they want to change the constitution anywhere at any stage, they can change it again, as they have been doing. The way to get back our power is to unite all of us and the population to be rallied together. And once that happens, and I am very excited that I can sing, all patriots, these are the patriots, people who care for the country, not thieves calling themselves patriots. Like the other day you saw Mr. Museveni in uniform, and he put on that uniform to send a message to frighten people in the uniform on the eve of elections, saying, I am going to kill anybody who disturbs peace. And later he said, you know, I am the patriot. He's a patriot of starving Ugandans. How can you call yourself a patriot who has been in charge of a country 37 years and the people are being buried for lack of food? How can you be a patriot? So, thank you, patriots, for this today. And mufunze siri musanyufu okuba nti tutwala ekiseera kinene nnyo nga tuvunula bye twayogedde mu Lungereza tubiteeka mu nnimi endala kubanga namwe ogwo gwe mwana gutusonyiweeko ne mugukola. Yes, and essaawa time is of essence, you know. So bwe njogera mu Luganda vunula oteeke mu Lungereza, bwe njogera mu Lungereza teeka mu Luganda nga bwe tukola emirimu emirala. Nayogedde ensonga ssatu. Ekisooka nti embeera embi ennyo etalabikangako mu ggwanga lyaffe eri mu bantu baffe olwaleero bonna, embeera y'obuteesobozesa kweyimirizaawo ng'omuntu. Bannayuganda bonna teri akyasobola kweyimirizaawo, teri akyasobola kwefunira mmere nafuna ebikozesebwa awaka neyeeyimirizaawo. Embeera eyo ffenna gye tulimu olwaleero ekigireese mbeera ya byanfuna, mbeera bya buweereza nti mu malwaliro temuli malagala, abaana ku ssomero babazizaayo wakane n'ekiseera ky'okuwummula nga tekinatuuka kubanga tebakyasobola kubalabirira mu masomero. Embeera y'obuweereza n'ebyenfuna eva mu byobufuzi, teyereese yekka, eva mu byobufuzi. Ebyobufuzi ebigamba nti bannansi abo abali mu mbeera y'akatyabaga tulimu olwaleero nti tebalina ddoboozi mu ggwanga lyabwe. N'olwekyo ebyobugagga bw'eggwanga tebibakolera kubanga tebalina ddoboozi. Ebyasangibwawo nga twabikuŋŋaanya ngeri ebyobugagga bwaffe obwawamu mu 86 Mwami Museveni we yayingirira mu gavumenti, bye yasangawo nga tukuŋŋaanyiza ebyawamu. Sente zaali mu commercial bank, Uganda Commercial Bank, Cooperative Bank, simanyi biki, Uganda Railways, simanyi Uganda Airlines, simanyi Uganda Hotels, simanyi biki, bye twali tukuŋŋaanyiza byonna babigabana abatono ne babitwala. Kati sente zetusolooza ze batusoloozaamu ku mmundu era kubanga tetulina ddoboozi erigamba nti otugjeemu nyingi oba erigamba nti z'otutte zo zigenda kutukolera ki, batwala ne bakozesa nga bwe bakola ki, nga bwe baagala. So omutawaana gwe tuwangaliramu olwaleero guva mu byabufuzi eby'abantu mu ggwanga batalina ddoboozi. Ekituleese wano kye tukola kwe kugonjoola embeera eyo kubanga batalina ddoboozi. Bava batya mu butabeera na ddoboozi ne balifuna. Bw'oba tolina buyinza ova otya mu mbeera y'obutabeera na buyinza n'obufuna. Oyo yabukuwambako asobola kukutegekera akalulu akakuwa obuyinza bumuveeko bugende gy'oli nga yabuwamba buwambi. Kye babadde batulaga mu kulonda kwonna kwe tuyiseemu, babadde batulaga nti obuyinza obusalirawo eggwanga lino ffe tubuyina, ffe tusalawo ani anaasalirawo eggwanga, si mmwe. Kye babadde batulaga abantu ne bakuba akalulu n'okukakuuma ne bakakuuma n'ebivuddemu ne birabika ne bagamba nti ne balangirira ebirala. Kati gwe kola ky'oyagala. Bw'oddukira mu kooti ekivaayo kyekyo omuloodi kyayogeddeko ti ne kooti nazo ziri mu buwanga. Ate babiwamba tulaba. Kooti amagye gagirumba misana ttuku. Kooti gye tuddukiramu Black Mamba zagirumba ne zigisaanyaawo nga tulaba misana. Parliament gye tuwoza tulina Parliament amagye gagirumba ne gagiwamba nga tulaba misana. Abamu bakyali ku migo abakubibwa mu Parliament ne bamenyeka emigongo. So bakulaga nti temuyina buyinza ffe tubasalirawo. Kati bye bazze batulaga mu kalulu konna bwe tugendamu bwe kyebagezaako okutulaga. Bwe balaba kubanga baagala ensonga lwaki bategeka akalulu baagala kweraga eri wabweru nti nabo bayise mu mbeera y'akalulu. So kati basobola okusalawo ako mukabalekera ako nakali ako mukabawe basobole okugamba nti tutegeka obulaki nga mwemuli mu Parliament nammwe mudaba mwemuli. Kati bwe tubawangula bwe mukayana bwe muwangula temukayana naye nga temwawa zimu be bakkiriza nti ako kabakatwale nakali kabakatwale. So ffe tulowooza era nga kyetukuŋŋaaniddeko olwaleero nti akalulu tetujja kukkiriza kagende mu maaso bwe katyo nga balimba nsi yaffe nga balimba n'ab'ebweru. Tetujja kusigala nga tukola nga bye tubadde tukola. Batudde babakutte munnange. Tetujja kugenda mu kalulu kulajjana. Bwe tuba tugenze mu kalulu tugenda kuwulira abantu abali eri abaagala enkyukakyuka beekolemu omulimu okulaba nti obuyinza bwabwe babulwanirira mu kalulu gye tulaga. Ate abantu bwe tubanga twegasse ne tugamba ensi yonna nti enkya kino kye kirina okutambula ffenna ne tukyegatiramu ne kitambula Mwami Museveni wakoma. Tuli maanyi gasobola ne bwaba n'emmundu ezifaanana zitya n'ebimotoka nga tusazeewo eggwanga lyonna ne tusalawo nti tetukyatambula na kino tukiyimiriza kijja kuyimirira. N'olwekyo ndowooza enneetegeka yeetambule tulabe kubanga bw'obba akalulu tobba abantu basigalawo. Abantu be mwalaba Esoroti bali bonna be mwalaba gye bali ye tayinaayo. So bwe tugamba ti Soroti eyimirire ejja kukola ki? Ejja kuyimirira kubanga bagireka ng'etambula tabayina. Ate n'abo baabalanga ababe lwakuba bakyamulaba nga yayina ensawo omusobola okuva ensako gye bajjamu ak'okulya. Naye bwe balabanga n'ekyo takyakisobola teri ajja kumubeerako. So tuli basanyufu nti olwaleero bannayuganda ffenna bandowooza zonna tuggyeyo eddoboozi nti tutambulire wamu tusooke tulabe nti bannayuganda obuyinza bwabwe bubaddidde. Kati bwe baba n'obuyinza bwe basobola okusalawo abaagala okuwagira nkola ki oba nkola ki bwe tusobola okufuna akalulu ak'amazima abantu nga bamaze okufuna obuyinza. So mbeebaza mwenna abatambuzizza endowooza eno. Ate ndowooza twebaze oba oliawo n'akeeyongerayo muganda wange Robert Kyagulanyi kubanga yeyagambye kwe twavudde Esoroti n'agamba nti bannange kati kiyitiridde twekolemu ki? Twekolemu omulimu. Of course ffe nga bwe mbagambye ebyebibiina twali twabiteeka dda bbali ffe tubadde olwedde tukola ki? Olwedde tubadde tutambula kujjako nti babadde bantwala ne munnanga ono yeka oba oliawo nga tibajja kututwala ffenna ekintu kirabike bulungi. Kale mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala katulabe ebinaddako.
simanyi oba ne MC naye avunula mu Uganda. Thank you very much, retired Dr. KIZZA Besigye. And now having the pleasure to invite the President of National Unity Platform to make his comments.
Thank you very much, Sibo. Thank you very much, Comrade Dr. Besigye and other leaders that have addressed us today. No, Dr. Besigye, nachabada asabi ate kyandi nkoledde. Badagambi tugere mu lulimi lumu mwe mubikyuse kati nandyogedde mu Luganda ebyoluzungu ne mubikyusa. But for the importance of conveying this message, I'll also use both languages. Most has been said. I cannot overemphasize the words of our brother, the Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago. I certainly cannot overemphasize the words of Dr. Besigye. That's exactly the truth and more. Where we are, ladies and gentlemen, we all see. We cannot pretend not to see. We cannot pretend not to see that Museveni organizes elections, but in real sense organizes a fight where he is over-equipped and we are zero-equipped. You saw the general elections of 2021, you saw Kayunga, you saw Omoro, now you've seen Soroti and many other places. Many times when we just go into elections, get out of that crazy election only to go into another without anything, gives the wrongest message to our people. In many ways, we tend to legitimize those elections. When we leave Kayunga just into another election, even when the Kayunga election has been a bogus one, we tend to fit into Museveni's narrative. However, we've always agreed that we go into these elections, as rallying platforms. However, when things come in certain ways, we have to think in certain ways as well, ladies and gentlemen. Now, having heard from my fellow leaders, I just want to send messages to two types of people, maybe three. First, I want to send a message to my fellow leaders. Leaders from different political parties, different formations, from different levels. Number one, I think a time has come for us to change our gospel, for us to change our message and be more realistic to the electorate. We go into the election promising change, even at MP level, even when we know that when one becomes an MP under the Museveni regime, apart from agitating, apart from using the parliamentary platform, we can change very little. Therefore, it's my considered view that our message should be more of a revolutionary message. Whether campaigning for MP or even for LC1, the main agenda should be using that election, one, to sensitize people, but to also make that election, no matter how small it is, a spark to chase the junta. I think the election should be more for sensitization than for winning. In any case, we know that Museveni decides days, sometimes months before the election, who the winner will be. So let's go into these elections, not looking at them as normal elections, because they are not normal elections. When you are going to an election, let the people know, let our supporters and voters and followers know what exactly we're going into, so that when they come from that election, whatever comes from that election, we have taken another step towards our liberation. Number two, let us try as much as possible to make that particular election a spark. Museveni is making mistakes all the time. So don't go to an election only looking for a win and walking away from there. Let's go to Tugende Mukulondo Konga tugenze kuzoganya. because that is the reality of it. Let us try to go into every election knowing that that particular election, wherever it is, can be a spark that chases Museveni away. Let us remember the Arua election. I mean, we go to elections now, they arrest our leaders, they kill some of our people, we don't do nothing. That should challenge us as leaders to think of what next. And third and most important message to the leaders, friends, let us unite. Let us unite in the real sense of unity. And this message doesn't only goes to leaders at presidential or MP levels, but at all levels. You notice, friends, that we have made it easy for Museveni by fighting each other. We have changed our targets from the enemy to each other. And it's unfortunate that even those that work closely with us are not making it easy for us to come together. Now, this country is bigger than our political parties. And the mission is bigger than building our political parties. In any case, one would rightly argue that there are no political parties in Uganda because we don't operate like political parties. Political parties are recognized in a democracy. But in a country where you cannot even organize as a political party, then we cannot boast of being political parties. Therefore, we are all slaves. And the more we fight against each other, is the more we prolong it from 7. I'll mention that many of us leaders are working closely to each other, but you, our followers, you, our supporters, and you, our fellow leaders, especially those below us, are making it easy for us to